Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. This is the Element Optics Helix Gen 2. This is a 6-24 by 50 specification, and it's definitely suited to those wanting a little bit more precision out of an entry-level scope, a bit more magnification, great for some longer range shooting capabilities. Now, I've been out shooting this on a 2-2 rimfire CZ457, one of my favourite guns to shoot because I can experiment with it a lot, shoot with it a lot, do lots of windage and elevation adjustments, and really, work the scope around and make sure it's tracking well and things like that. Now, one thing I will say in advance, I was using this trigger cam on it, and these do, although they work well, you don't always get the full optical capability shown on screen by them, because you've got to remember it's extra lenses, extra elements on it, and it does affect the ability to shoot and enjoy the optic itself. So I shot it with it on to get a bit of footage, then I took it off, actually enjoyed shooting a lot more without it. So just bear in mind, although that gives you a bit of a representation of what's going on, please don't take what's recorded of that as gospel with the scope. So what can I tell you about it? Well, this is a very nicely made scope. I mean, the retail price on it is only just over £440, so it's extremely good value for money. It's a 30mm tube, it's hard anodized, it's smooth, it doesn't take the skin off your fingers, and it comes with both rubber lens covers that fit over the back and front like this, or you can have the flip-up covers which go on the back and front thus. Depends what you want to do, how you prefer it, and there you go. So those pop open as you want. So looking at the back, it's got a fast focus eyepiece. Make sure you get absolutely crystal clear reticle focus. That worked perfectly. I was very happy with it. It comes without the throw lever installed, but it's an optional extra, and that just screws in to there. Whoopsie daisy, that just screws in there. You can take the plug out, and as it comes with the Allen keys to do that as well. I always put those on because I just find them such a useful advantage when you're frequently changing magnification. Now, this scope is available in both first and second focal plane in both minutes of angle or milliradians. Me being me, I chose it in first focal plane in milliradians, and there are also two reticle choices for whether you want minutes or mils as well. There's the APR-1C and the APR-2D. The APR-1C is my preference. It's got milliradian hash mark aim offs on it, and of course the APR-2D is a little bit more complicated with a more Christmas tree style. Suits some people more than others. You take your choice, and that's the one you go for. Of course, being first focal plane, those milliradian aim-offs are absolutely perfect in correlation with your turrets when you're, regardless of what magnification you're using, which means it's just a lot simpler to never make a mistake. But some people do prefer second focal plane reticles just because the reticle stays exactly the same size. Windage and elevation, windage is on the side here, and you've got obviously left and right. There's 8 milliradians per rotation, which is 80 clicks, and of course that's 0.1 milliradians or 10 millimeters at 100 meters per click. Same for elevation, 8 milliradians per turn. It goes anti-clockwise for up, and you've got a 0 stop on it as well. You can reset everything by just unscrewing the top like that. That pops off, you get the tools with it, you loosen an Allen key here, rotate that against the stop once you've zeroed the rifle scope, pop this back down, make sure it's aligned with the 0 marker you want. I tend to generally do rimfires at 50 meters, that spins back into place, and you're there. You can now dial up and down, back to the 0 stop, you're never going to get lost. Windage is exactly the same. You undo the outer nil dial here, the collar slides off, you put it back on at 0, and there you go. Now as standard, that sits actually under a cap which goes on there, but you also got a thread protector ring with it, so you can put that on if you want to leave it as an exposed dial there, which I prefer to do on a scope I'm going to be using predominantly at multiple distances. Also in the packet you get an 80mm sunshade that goes on the front, thus screws into place, and as well as that there is a 34mm aperture. Now, like anybody into sort of photographic things will appreciate, that smaller apertures give you a greater depth of field, but they do, minimise, or they do take away slightly from the amount of light that's able to enter the lens itself. But you know, there are pros and cons to both systems, because if you put that in, if you're doing multiple distances, especially in fast fire scenarios at high magnification, you don't really have as much change in focus because they do give you a greater depth of field. But again, that's up to preferential choices, and if you like it, you like it. If it's not something you need, it can stay in the box. I tend not to use it because I like to be able to crisply parallax everything using the side parallax dial here, but you know, horses for courses, exactly what you want to use. Now that parallax dial runs from 10 meters all the way out to infinity. It's very smooth in operation. You can't feel any of the internal lens packages moving, and there doesn't appear to be any backlash either. That works extremely nicely, and of course with it being down to 10 meters, it's suitable for air rifles all the way up to centerfires, and you're not going to have an issue with recoil. While we're talking about recoil, eye relief is 94 to 102 millimeters, so you're not going to have any problem really getting a scope fit working on any rifle, because you're not going to hit your face with a 94 to 102 millimeters. It varies slightly through the magnification range, which is par for the course generally speaking, but you don't notice it on this because the eye box is very relaxed and you don't have any problems kind of having to move backwards and forwards to find it. It's versatile and very accommodating. I didn't have a problem shooting it at all from any position, sitting, kneeling, standing, from tripod sticks or prone at all. So that's great, and it means that on a rifle where you've got a little bit less space, like a rimfire like this, because it's a physically smaller rifle, you can make sure everything's out of the way and it's still going to give you that full vignette free sight picture through the scope. Overall it's 356, which is not too big, and it weighs 830 grams, which for the specification it's offering is excellent. All the lenses are fully multi-coated, and of course it's nitrogen purged, so you're not going to have any issues with condensation in use. You get a really nice instruction manual, which is something Element always seem to do, and there's a huge amount of information here which covers all the details, both technical and sort of warranty issues, things like that. The warranty on these scopes is superb, but to be fair, no one ever needs it because they don't break. It explains how to set the scope up, things like the diopter to make sure you've got the reticle in clear focus, and you've got the other factors like zoom control, but it also goes on to explain bits about the reticle, a little bit about the angular adjustment, and the fact that when a scope is adjusting, it's adjusting an angle, not specifically a dimension, and of course the dimension it adjusts it is relative to the range you're shooting at. So for a new shooter, that's a really good instruction book because it gives you an awful lot of information. There are also factors that it shows you in detail here about the reticle, and of course this is for the APR 1C reticle, which was my choice in this one, which is of course the first focal plane version. Last but not least, in the box you get a cleaning cloth, you get the Allen keys, that's the little plug there that came out from where the throw lever went in. Image quality through the scope is very nice. You don't get any chromatic aberration. The sunshade helps you, exclude sunlight, which at this time of year is quite a problem because it's very bright, as you can see from some of the video. The ability to put that sunshade on, especially when you've got sun coming in from a low angle with often awkward reflections coming off the gun, it's really nice to be able to use that. So the fact it's included is good. The aperture was interesting. I did actually quite like using that, especially at the sort of intermediate ranges with a rimfire where I was shooting between 50 and 150, 250 meters, because I did set the parallax for the sort of median distance, and then I just enjoyed the fact I had slightly crisper focus throughout that range without having to change the parallax at all. I could just concentrate on aiming and shooting. Now, using the trigger cam, I had to restrict myself to 12 magnification because the trigger cam actually won't accept the exit pupil size difference. The exit pupil changes on this from 8.3 to 2.1 millimeters throughout the magnification range, and it's just a factor that the actual sensor on this camera won't accept that small 2.1 millimeter exit pupil. So that's a problem with the camera, nothing wrong with the rifle scope, because when I took that off I was completely happy shooting up at 24 power, using the Parallax to make sure I was getting a nice crisp image, shooting, really enjoying it. And you will see in the video there's actually quite a mirage because it's bubbling away vertically. It wasn't too windy, which was extremely nice, but it was about 25 degrees today, so you know, quite unusual shooting conditions for the UK, certainly less common. Overall elevation travel is 18.9 milliradians, windage travel is 11.6, so you can make big dial-offs for elevation and distance that allow you to get out to long range. And of course a rimfire is using more of that elevation for kind of normal range shooting. 150 to sort of 350 meters with a rimfire is quite a long shot, so it's great to be able to exercise this turret all the way through its range and make sure it's coming back to zero for 50 meters every time. Field of view is 6.7 to 1.7 meters at 100 meters, depending on what magnification you're at, which is realistic in terms of the magnification offered from this scope. This is a very well priced scope. It offers excellent value for money, and of course it's suitable for rimfires, air rifles and centerfires too, because there's plenty of eye relief on it, both physically and positionally wise. I enjoyed using it. I found it very simple, straightforward to use, and actually shooting on multiple distances I got to check the tracking was moving backwards and forwards fine, and I didn't have any kind of misses because for some reason it wasn't moving as I wanted it to. The actual tracking values correlated correctly with the previous milliradian data I had for this rifle and the ammunition I was using through it, so it meant I could just carry on and shoot. And you know, that's what I like about some review projects. You can just go out and shoot and enjoy the shooting, and you don't have any complication to overcome. And I think that gives me a great sort of similarity with newer shooters who maybe don't have the experience and want to know things are easy to set up. Well, it is easy to set up, and I am more picky than many people are. Being on a 30mm tube, you've got great versatility in terms of eye relief and the rings you're going to use on the rifle, and as you can see on that, it fits very nicely on this rifle, and it was thoroughly enjoyable to shoot because I can shoot rimfire all day long, doesn't make huge amounts of noise, doesn't cost lots of money, and that scope suits it perfectly. As an overall package, that rifle and scope will be costing you just over £1,000, and it will last pretty much forever. So please have a look at the Element Optics range. I'll put links on screen. Thank you to the Sportsman Gun Centre for lending it to me. Right, well I hope you've enjoyed watching that review. Please like, subscribe, comment and click the notification bell and keep track of my regular uploads. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.